Beautiful people. So this is a reading today for the Via Combusta or Fiery Pathway. I didn't know I was going to do this. Spirit said you need to sit down and do this reading. So I'm sitting down, I'm doing this reading for you. So what is the Via Combusta? Now, in the very old astrology, the Via Combusta was a period of time during the first 15 degrees of Scorpio when there were lots of malefic or bad stars, and this created part of what was Scorpio season, death and rebirth. Now, it eventually became the space of time between 15 degrees of Libra and 15 degrees of Scorpio. And it's a journey to seek balance in the imbalance that we have in us. So looking at those things, those traumas, those things that need to be taken out, integrating them and bringing balance back into our lives so that we can rebirth. Now, the rebirth takes place on the true astrological point of Samhain. Now, I know we celebrate Samhain on the 31st, but that's not its true date. It's a cross-quarter day, which is the midpoint between an equinox and a solstice, and that's around the 6th and the 7th. This year it's on the 6th at 23:14 in the evening, and that's a day of rebirthing, coming through this difficult passageway, this vaticinium, the Janus Geminus, having sought balance and integrating things, causing us to have a rebirth, a death and a rebirth. So this full blue moon that just happened on the 31st, which was what most people would call Samhain, is not the true day. Now, the reason it got changed was because in around 609, 610, the pantheon where Saturn and all those other Roman gods were celebrated, it was consecrated and turned into a Catholic church. And it was decided that on the 13th of May, there's a lot of noise outside, exciting. It's very much a surfing day today out there. So on the 13th of May, they had a feast for Maria and the martyrs. And on that day, the head of the house would walk around barefoot throwing black beans over their shoulder, and the Vestal Virgins would create salted flour cakes from the fresh new ears of wheat that were coming up in that season's growth. And it was you said an incantation 9 times to remove old ancestors, and that's really what we're doing here. We're looking at ancestor energy that dictates to our DNA and our consciousness. But so you were expelling ghosts. So this made May a kind of a month in which marriages were not supposed to happen, because it was a month that you were dealing with clearing out dead souls. And in Roman times, they used to say that bad girls married in May. So Pope Gregory III moved the day to the 1st of November, meaning that All Hallows Day, because this is All Hallows Tide, and today, the 1st of November, is Hallowmas, was moved to that day, which meant that the day before All Hallows Eve was the point at which they believed the veil was at its thinnest for the dead. But that's to do with the fact that on today, All Saints' Day, we celebrate all the souls up in heaven, the martyrs. And then on the 2nd All Souls' Day, we celebrate all of those souls in purgatory. So it's become that the 31st is associated with Halloween or Samhain, but actually it's the 6th. So we're going to look at, using the Ephemeris, we're going to look at the 3 dates where the moon is doing actions with Saturn to help you understand how the Ephemeris works, leading us up to the 6th when we have our rebirth. So first of all, let's have a look at what the mystical Shaman deck would like to say about the Via Combusta, because the Via Combusta has been dropped by modern astrologers as something that doesn't matter anymore because there are no longer malefic stars in in the cosmos. But actually, that's the whole point, that energy has changed. It's changed to something that's a little less aggressive, less of a fiery path. It's still a very difficult path to go through, but it's important really that we look at these frequencies, because that's what Libra season and then Scorpio season is about, bringing balance and going through a death and rebirth. So let's bring back the Via Combusta. I know we've missed a lot of it, but we're in the tail end. We're passing through the Vaticinium and we're just about to reach the doors at the end and rebirth. So let's see what we can do to help us with that. So what's the relevance? What's the relevance, please? What's the relevance of the Via Combusta to us today? There's one on the floor, of course. Okay, so we have 55 and 6. The taming of the wind and the blade. So the wind is the vortex in the middle of the Janus Geminus, the Vaticinium, the point at which we give sacrifices to Janus or Janus and prepare to exit through the doors at the other end of the passageway. And the blade is helping us. It's talking about the moon phase. It's telling me that this full moon was the point at which the energy changes, is cut off to rebirth into this new frequency as it heads towards the new moon on the 15th. But our rebirth is coming on the 6th at Samhain. And then we have 33 and 20, the flow of magic. That's the point of this. The next 6 days is to connect with the flow of magic. So I'm going to ask for a moon card for each of those. Can we please have a moon card? And a moon card for this side. A moon card for this side. A moon card for this side. So, the energy is gaining momentum. It is a waxing moon, but the moon is obviously now waning. But the point of it is that the energy is now gaining to help us move towards bringing balance to ourselves and taming that vortex that we've passed through in the middle when emotions and things were stirred up, and they were October, they were really stirred up in Libra season. And then we have hold your vision. Hold your vision as the wind and the energy clears to move you forwards into rebirthing. Okay, so we're going to use the lovely Aleister Crowley deck from Lady Frida Harris to get a little bit of a tarot information on the Via Combusta. Oh, I see what it's saying. The waxing moon is what happens when it usually starts the moon is waxing as you head towards the vortex that you have to tame and cut through at the center and flow into the new magic that you're creating. So, what do we have here? Oh. So, we have the Princess of Swords. This is Ninlil always for me. Enlil was a Babylonian god who separated heaven and earth to create the space for humanity. Ninlil is his counterpart. Just like you have Saturn and Ops, she's returning the frequency so that humanity can live out in without the distortions that were there during the male energy, moving to the divine feminine energy. And so this is about how the point of going through the Via Combusta is to bring yourself back into alignment, to go in with all your distortions, face your distortions, and then move through, taming your wind. And we have ending of endings, because there's always an ending of endings in the center of the vaticinium, the passageway through. So this is about cutting through. I said just the other day, the two swords cutting through the old veil, bringing you to a rebirth, the fall energy, a new beginning, a brand new frequency. I love this fall card. It has so much imagery in it. It has an alligator representing old DNA. It has a tiger representing divine feminine consciousness biting into the past to transform it. It has an abundance of coins that are all the different astrological symbols, and he holds in his hand a quartz crystal and fire. And there's also a sense of the cornucopia grapes, this something that sweetens us, that brings us into a new energetic magical flow if we can reach the center and hold our vision to move forward. I'm getting that sense of Orpheus in the underworld now. Orpheus was told not to look back as he went through the passageway that he went through, his trial. And that's kind of what you have to do. Don't look back. Look backwards until you reach the midpoint where you bring balance to things, and then don't look back, move only forwards. So I'm gonna ask a question about ancestral DNA. Ancestral DNA. There's one on the floor. Ancestral DNA. Ancestral DNA. Oh, they're all on the floor. In two different directions. Can't pick it up. So, ancestral DNA. Ancestral DNA is really deep, heavy, dark, uncomfortable distortions that we're working on. It's really going into my throat chakra. So we have two fives, the Five of Swords and the Five of Pentacles, defeat and worry and interference. But that's what DNA is. In order for our consciousness, when we're first conceived and there's just one single cell, our consciousness comes in and it's pure love. And then as each cell divides and changes and turns into livers and kidneys and bones and eyes and hair and all the things it becomes, it takes on the memories of your ancestral DNA. And that's full of all these stories of interference, defeat and worry. And they get poked in your life so that you believe they're part of your frequency. And they are now, because as your consciousness has resonated out through the distortions of your own individual DNA, it creates a frequency that means these energies are invited or are inviting those traumas towards you. It's only by working on these traumas, seeing them, witnessing them, integrating those pains so that you can see how you can grow, that we take these distortions away. I mean, that is really very heavy energy that we inherit. Now, where's that going? It's interesting, I'm just being told to observe that it's 5, 5 and 8. which makes 18, which is a 9, a divine 9. It's a divine part of human experience to feel these DNA distortions. That's what you come down here for. That's the mystery, the puzzle, the riddle that we agree to take on before we incarnate. So, I mean, what they're trying to say there is don't look at the things that are your ancestral DNA as something to hold you in victim frequency. You chose to come here to defeat that frequency, and that's why we go through the Via Combusta. So, the Via Combusta, the Chariot 7. This is, I'm kind of seeing this as a washing machine on a spin cycle in the middle, changing our frequency, beginning to resonate with a new energy, because when you fix your emotional thoughts, the things that you felt were distorting you or were heavy or were an interference, then you change the resonant frequency of you, and this means that your DNA begins to adapt and take you one stage closer to your original divine blueprint of one cell, before all the distortions were created and your consciousness had to weave itself into every single cell. So this is about that moment in the middle where your DNA begins to change its frequency as you head towards moving back out with Chariot, knowing the direction that you want to go in. I want to say it is still, regardless of there being no bad stars, this is still very heavy, petrifying. You know, in old opera language, where they used to do a kind of sign language when they sang arias, there was a definite difference between to be terrified and to be petrified. When you were terrified, you were stuck to the earth, but you could run. When you were petrified, you were literally turned to stone and you couldn't move. So one was about leaning this way and you can't escape, whereas terrified is when you run. You're scared, but you can run. So this is about facing demons, shadow work. I know I keep saying it, but that's how we move forwards, through the shadow work, facing our demons, being terrified, but knowing that we can move past it. And then we get the card of peace. Now look, those two cards came out in the Saturn Ops reading the other day. The two swords that are cutting through the veil, taming the wind, are bringing peace. They are those two swords in harmony with each other. And this notion of the winds being stilled, because these are like those little windmills that children carry that spin around, and everything's paused because it's a new frequency. The wind has been calmed so that it can flow with the new magic. What is this new magic that we're holding this vision on? Knight of Carps. The Knight of Cups is the King of Cups in this deck, and this is about being at home with your emotions. This is about correcting your sacral. Just being drawn to something at the bottom which I've never seen before, which is the ghost of a peacock. So the ghost of a peacock is talking to me about ego, and the distorted ego that we live under, all the while we're still resonating with ancestral trauma. Whereas once we move forwards, that peacock becomes a ghost energy and we move into a new psychic flow of consciousness, and we hold up the cup with Cancer the crab in it and the moon. So it's almost like we're just at the last door to open into the sunlight again. It's very beautiful. These are the energies of those cards are really talking about this wonderful, loving, emotional, divine blueprint journey that we're heading towards. So let's push those cards out the way. So now we're going to look at the aspects that are taking place today. So today we have Mercury in retrograde squaring Saturn, and this is a square is quite a difficult energy to get through. So it's in Libra, so it's begging us to voice balance. So we're going to take the double Anna Stark deck to look at what that frequency is about. So can you please tell us what this frequency of Mercury retrograde square Saturn is all about? Can you please tell us what Mercury square Saturn is all about? Mercury retrograde. Quite difficult to get hold of today, these cards. There we have two. Okay, so hidden realms. Mercury is a trickster frequency in many ways. Mercury is asking for us to look into the chaos inside ourselves and to voice it. By voicing it, you change the frequency of it. You don't just leave it as a conscious thought, but you voice it into the real world, creating light codes. Now, what they're saying with these light codes are, they're not saying suddenly talk some mystical language, but they're talking about how when you voice the imbalances, when you bring those imbalances that you've sought and thought about out into the physical world. So with the full moon yesterday, I went to the full moon, and it's still full moon energy. You can still do this. I went out with the full moon and I voiced all of the things that I still feel were part of this month's journey through my Via Combusta that I needed to give to the moon and release. And when you do that, it changes your frequency. I felt so blissfully calm yesterday after it. And this changes your DNA. It begins to rewrite the distortions, which means that you resonate with new light codes. You're not going to hear them necessarily. You're not going to witness them, but they are a frequency and a vibration that's coming out of you. They're this, the light codes in the spin cycle, in the middle of your solar plexus washing machine. Not solar plexus, sacral. In the sacral washing machine, self-love, the luminous warrior. Oh, light codes, luminous warrior. There we go. So, it feels like I'm having a Mercury, a communication, the voice, energy descend upon me. Just want to keep making that noise. So, can we please have some tarot for this? Can we please have some tarot for Mercury retrograde square Saturn in Libra? So, Three of Swords, pain, trauma. But it's interesting that in this Three of Swords, look, they're malleable. The pains are not fixed. The one that's the root cause is fixed at the moment, but these are malleable. They're mutable frequencies, and they're meeting in the middle in this new flower of the sacral that's growing. That's part of this looking into your hidden realms and voicing it. You change the frequency, you make it malleable to make a transformation. And then we have the Knight of Discs, which is Kings in this deck. This is about coming back into the real world, creating a new dawn for you to be in the real world. His weapon is down. The grass and the corn is growing. He has his helmet off. He no longer feels like he's at war. It's the moment after the struggle. And then that comes with the Prince of Cups, who is witnessing the rebirth of a new Kundalini energy from within. And this is a consciousness energy, because we have the bird flying across the waters, across the Akashic seas, and bringing that energy into our blueprint to create the new codes. So I'm going to take an Odin rather than a Moonology, because there's no moon aspect with this. So can you please give us a... down there. Okay, so it's Isa. It's just saying to you, Spirit is opening a space for you to let go of all the shit that you hang on to. So, witness it, find it, see it in the hidden realms, find the pains, voice the pains, and Spirit will help to lift them and change those frequencies. So, the next thing that we have is the 2nd of November, when we have the moon will trine with Saturn. So this is about harmonizing your new frequencies into the earth, because it's in Taurus. The moon's in Taurus. So trines are very harmonious. They're a nice aspect. So moon trine Saturn. Moon trine Saturn. I'm not sure that I said, I'm looking at the Ephemeris that I wrote for you all. This is a way of helping you understand how to work with the Ephemeris. You can take the days that are listed and you can lay out some cards to help guide you on your personal journey and what you need to do that day to help you. So, Moon trine Saturn on the 2nd of November in Taurus, please. What's that all about? Moon trine Taurus, Moon trine Taurus, Moon trine Taurus, trine Saturn in Taurus. Sorry, my brain's was going so deeply into the cards, waiting for something to come out. One more, I feel, because those two are not quite... There we go. So, I love this card because it always has a completely different message to me. This is what you're trying to release, rigidity. It's no good going into battle all armoured up, because you're not allowing an energetic flow through you. This is almost like when people go out, I've said this message before, but they're putting it in my head again. It's when you say to spirits and guides and everybody, please protect me, Archangel Michael or whoever, please protect me, put a bubble of protection around me. When you put a bubble of protection around you, nothing flows through you. You're protected. And that's lovely. But you will not allow the natural flow of energies. There is no protection in shadow work. You have to face it. So take down your defenses. Go between worlds. And this talks about 13 frequency. Still got that energy in my throat. I'm feeling like a collective blockage on speaking out. Maybe it's because we're still in retrograde Mars, maybe Mercury, maybe as soon as we get to the 6th, that frequency will go. It's kind of saying, although this is a good aspect, there is a sense still of a discomfort around communicating this. You've got to release that. So 5, between worlds, new directions, change. 5, frequency change. The 13 frequency is because the outer segments of a turtle or tortoiseshell has 13 segments to it. So we're talking about seeing the bigger picture that's opening to move forwards into. And then we have mindful wisdom, create inner harmony. So owl is spirit. But in this, it's talking about knowing that you have spiritual assistance, but that it's your consciousness, your higher self, that creates the inner harmony to lead you to the new directions. Okay. So now we need some tarot on that journey. Can we please have a message for this journey through Moon trine Saturn? Moon trine Saturn. So we have the Prince of Wands. This is desire. So it's interesting. It's coming with this card. The Prince is naked. He doesn't have this bubble that's stopping flow. This Prince is going forwards with a desire to reach the other end, full of passion for where his for where his ego will take him now. So we're on this subject of ego. So your ego, did I say that earlier, is distorted. I think I did, but I'm confused because I'm connecting to thoughts. So if I did, I did. If I didn't, I'm doing it again. So your ego is a distortion of your consciousness because it's wrapped around the distortions of your DNA. And this is about how this process of going through the Via Combusta is about removing some of those barriers that your ego has, not allowing your ego to drive you in the wrong direction. This is about the ego working with you as one to reach a better future in that frequency of love. It's like this chariot won't move all the while your ego is hard and stone into the love frequency. It only moves when you can work out your passionate desires to move forwards into change, embracing change, going between the worlds. And between the worlds is the energy of the Yggdrasil tree. So this card, for me, always represents a key that goes in and fits a lock, that tames the wind, that works with this. It's the energy inside everything. And this seems to be the moon. It's very difficult the way they've written that. Let me just pull up something to check. I've got some papers down here. I feel like they're trying to say Virgo rather than Scorpio, but that is earthing. So it's about bringing those energies to earth, going into the roots of the earth with this new inner balance that you're trying to build, to choose which of these frequencies that you're currently experiencing as you tame the wind, which one do you link on? The one with love, the one that will aid you to move forwards into a better life. And then it ends with the wonderful Queen of Discs who came up in the Saturn reading. This is Ops energy. She's tamed Capricorn, the goat. She's now got the bigger horns. You know, all of those fears are just pointless black and white things. She's sitting in her own realm, her own frequency of lower heart connection to the natural world. She holds the earth in her hands. She has her staff, which is power. So I'm going to ask for a Moonology card to go with that, because we're talking about the moon. There's one straight down here. Conclusions are within reach. It says full moon eclipse, but that's not the point. This is, conclusions are in reach, but there's still some elements of the Yggdrasil still being fractured around you, that you haven't drawn it into, you haven't woven all those pieces, those strands quite together. Maybe that will come on the 6th. And the 6th is Mercury now going direct, squaring again in Libra with Saturn, but this time it's also the day of rebirth. So Mercury square Saturn is at 9:12 in the morning GMT, and the sun, the astrological midpoint of Samhain is at 23:14. So for some of you it's going to be on the 7th. Okay, so let's look at Mercury direct communicating those last few elements that need of the Yggdrasil fracture that needs to be bound up. So can we please understand Mercury direct square Saturn? Mercury direct square Saturn. Mercury direct square Saturn. So we have card 19, Guardian. But what I'm getting from this is, look, this is the energy of DNA from the past, traumas that you've still yet to deal with during this square aspect that's taking place. But the wolf is holding still in its own frequency, and it's howling, it's singing, it's Galdir magic. So release those final traumas that you need to let go of or integrate so that you can move into this rebirthing energy with Swain. There's an echo of the past. There's a small wolf behind, talking about how your ancestors are howling with you to release this frequency. And then it's about celebrating your rebirth, resting, going into a frequency of self-love, kindness, things that are wonderful, that you feel you owe yourself. Because quite often we know that we owe ourselves some kindness, but we don't act on it. So this is about acting on, patting yourself on the back, doing something wonderful for you. And then it ends with intimacy. But this isn't intimacy. This is the energy with the rebirth of the frequency of your divine feminine consciousness and your divine masculine molecules beginning to get into a new intimate state with each other, because you've created a new frequency. I mean, look at these three cards together. What amazing, wonderful, energetic frequencies are taking place. You're holding your vision, that fixed moon, and you're reaching that point where your molecules and your consciousness can create a new intimacy with each other to change your blueprint, to upgrade your body, your physiognomy. So, can we have some tarot for that, please? Can we have some tarot for that, please? Can we have some tarot? Okay, so that one's there. Lovely. So we have Seven of Wands. This is about DNA realignment. And this is ego related again, though, they're saying. We have Leo and Mars, this very fiery ego energy coming into alignment and rebirthing that newness within the DNA. And then we have the Magician. This is manifesting. It's taking all the aspects. It's like your frequency is completely transforming. Everything around you is moving into a new frequency. A new energy is pouring from you. It's creating a frequency around you that will draw towards you like a magnet new energies. And your two energies, your Kundalini, are now totally wrapped together, coming from the top of the head. These two energies, again, it's just saying this is the point at which this new balance takes place. Rest into this wonderful energy that you've created. And we've got Mercury on this card. And it's the Six of Swords, which is moving on from a darkness, moving into a new frequency. Everything coming into an alignment, creating a new direction. And again, both of these cards are overwritten with lots of very complicated energy frequencies, all intercrossing as this new energy transforms you and changes you and brings you to that rebirth on Samhain. And then it ends with the Four of Wands, completion. This is when the Mars, no, it's talking to me about Capricorn. It's got three energies of Capricorn, the goat. No, I want to say it's not. Sorry. It is Mars, it's Aries, it's rebirth, it's a brand new start, it's the new inspiration, connecting that fire, that passion within you with a new spiritual pathway. And everything leads to the center of the sun, that's talking about a new love frequency taking place for you. It's interesting because this is Mercury square Saturn in Libra, and Venus rules Libra. So let's have a Moonology card. No, not a Moonology, Odin, because it's a Mercury square. So What do you want to say, Odin, about this? What do you want to say, Odin, about this? So, Os, this is sacred vessel. Spirit has parted everything to renew your sacred vessel. And this has the elements here that run round each other, the infinity symbol. This always speaks to me of DNA transformation. The frozen emotions that are part of having your compass renewed, your knowing where to journey is being done. And then there's a daisy in the second one, which is about the energy of the sun and the moon combined, eclipse energy. So this is bringing your vessel into a new, I want to say frequency, but there's something else I want to say. It's like it's being washed clean, to take on board new energies, to draw new magic towards it. So you have that, and then you have Madur, which is about earthing in the self, a new consciousness with a new fluid ego, I want to say at the moment, an energy where your ego is still changing, it's still transforming, there's still more work to be done, but this is the first part of which you're witnessing the ego changing. It's orange, it's sacral. This is very much a sacral energy change. So I'm just going to ask for some cards for Swen, because we're on the astrological true Swen. So what would you like to tell us about today? What would you like to tell us about today? Beautiful. Starts with 12 frequency. Because as the day begins, we're still dealing with, at 912, voicing more balance. The final part of that 12 frequency that we need to move away from, and working with spirit to strike down on the final parts of taming that wind that the Via Combusta is all about. And then what happens? Soul retrieval, beautiful energy, a transformation, a rebirth from the frozen chrysalis into new butterfly energy, to take flight. And this is that wonderful energy of the sun coming out after the rain. So beautiful, wonderful, amazing energy. I'm not going to ask for any more cards, I'm just going to leave it there. But so that's a little look at how you can use this Ephemeris chart to plot out frequencies, changes, things you need to look at, things you might need to understand as we move through towards this wonderful great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter. Anyway, that's a little message. I'm going for a swim in the sea because the sun's so shiny and I need to wash all your filth off me. Anyway, wassail.